This is the final word for all that cricket, fueled by Kookaburra Cricket. I'm Adam Collins. I'm here today at Lords in a segment I've been looking forward to doing for months. I've been talking to Fraser Stewart here, who's the MCC Laws Manager, about the changes in the laws of the game that came into play on October the 1st. In particular, the law about a man by the name of Vinu Mankad. Back in 1947, Fraser, there was an episode which has really gone on to illustrate how we've got one of the least understood laws in the game. That's about running at the non-striker.
Yes, it's a law that we've changed, and it has Mankad's name attached to it. We at MCC don't refer to it by his name. I think he's perhaps a bit unfairly tarnished with it. But yes, we have tweaked the law slightly to try and make it a bit fairer for the fielding side. Right,
let's unpack all this. So historically, it used to be, Fraser, that you needed to run out the non-striker if they'd left their crease before the bowler had planted their back foot. Now, that obviously gave the batsman a significant unfair advantage, didn't it?
Yes, it was the entering of the delivery stride, which is the landing of the back foot, as you say, and that did allow, particularly when there's a slower bowler bowling, for the non-striker to gain quite a reasonable advantage down the pitch. And you didn't see now when they check for no balls, particularly, you quite often see that the non-striker was 2 or 3 yards down the pitch at the moment that the ball was released, and then when you see at the other end when there's a close run out and it comes down to a matter of centimetres, that advantage is significant. So what we've tried to do is actually copy the ICC's rule that they've had in place for a few years, just to try and bring the non-striker back into his crease for longer.
Yeah, it's an important distinction here. The MCC laws are the laws of the game that govern what we play in the park on a Saturday or a Sunday or through the midweek. The professional game have a slightly different code, which has been brought in 2011 for this particular part of the game. But now it changes, isn't it? So now you can be in the middle of your delivery swing and still clip the bails off.
Yes, what we've said now is that the non-striker really must stay in his or her ground until the expected moment that the bowler will release the ball. So pretty much when the arm's up at the vertical. So what that will do is effectively make the non-striker know that he or she's got to stay within their ground until that moment when they would expect the ball to be released.
Also some nuance as well with the way you've written the law. It used to be almost pejorative about the bowler, and now it's certainly the onus is back on the batsman.
Yeah, just a subtle change in the title of the law. Previously it was the bowler attempting to run out the non-striker, and now we've changed it to the non-striker attempting to leave his ground early. So it's only a slight minor change, but it's perhaps just placing the onus more on the non-striker to realise that it's on him or her to stay in their ground until the bowler has released the ball. So a message to non-strikers: if you don't want to be out this way, and we don't really want people to be out this way, but we have to have a law in there, otherwise they can just go as far as they want. So we don't really want it to happen. So the message is stay in the ground until you see that the bowler has released the ball.
Now, as I said at the start, the least understood law in the game, I think partly because of how the first time it occurred back in 1947 with Vinu Mankad and Bill Brown. It happened in a warm-up game where he was given a warning first, and he was run out at the non-strikers end. That's sort of pervaded this as we've gone through the years, hasn't it? This idea of a batsman needing a warning. Can you just unpack why that's never really been the case and why you haven't gone ahead with it this time either?
It's been a convention of the game rather than a law of the game. We haven't placed in the law that there needs to be a warning. We did discuss that and consider it, but it was felt that some sides might just almost give a warning on the first ball of an innings, and then it's fair game from then. So as I said, the law has to be quite black and white. We would still hope that perhaps if this was happening, the fielding side might choose to have a quiet word first before doing this type of dismissal, but it is a legal form of dismissal within the laws of the game, and therefore we can't say there has to be a warning for it.
Do you expect it'll also change the way that bowlers have been sort of unfairly maligned when they've attempted this form of dismissal in the past? In the professional game, of course, Joss Buttler was famously dismissed this way in 2014 in a one-day international against Sri Lanka. There was that famous episode in the Under-19s World Cup a couple of years ago where a dismissal in this form resolved a game for the final wicket. Do you think now that bowlers will now perhaps be treated a bit more fairly?
I think so. I think perhaps they have been treated as the villain in this, where it's the non-striker leaving the ground early that has actually caused it and set the whole train of events in motion. So yes, I think we are just trying to make it that it's the batsman who's doing something wrong here. If the batsman stays in their ground for the right length of time, then this form of dismissal won't happen. So yes, a bit more sympathy for the bowlers, but it's really up to the batsman to control this.
So the message is clear: if you're a batsman, stay in your crease. Thanks to Fraser Stewart from the MCC for running us through this Much debated form of dismissal. Thanks to the MCC young cricketers as well for performing the demonstration out in the middle here at Lords. This is the final word for All Out Cricket, fueled by Kookaburra Cricket.
So here I've got the Swing Master ball, and luckily for me I'm naturally an in-swinger. It's great for young children to learn how to swing a ball, but basically for me I hold the ball just slightly twisted, just over the seam like so, with my fingers just on the other side of the seam with my index finger, and luckily my wrist is already in a naturally twisted position as well, so the ball naturally swings that way. And then for me, which is a bit harder to bowl an outswinger, I simply switch it and have it slightly on the other side of the seam and have my fingers just over the middle like that and move my wrist slightly to the other side.